and thank you for joining us for another episode of Got 10 Minutes. And today we have optimist, we have blogger, we have Big Four consultant, Mark Reyna. Thank you so much for joining us today. And before we get started, I have one question for you. You got 10 minutes?
I sure do.
Awesome. All right. Well, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Mark Reyna, based in Houston, Texas. Like you mentioned, work change management practitioner by day and founder blogger by night of Ingradivation, which you heard that correctly, Ingradivation. I came up with it uh, really when I identified, the theme and the passion that draws me into my content. So inspiration, gratitude, motivation. Yourself in the workplace and in real life. And I would say a lot of the content buckets into employer branding, culture curating, and diversity and inclusion.
That's awesome. Well, that's actually how we ended up getting connected through a colleague as well. So can you tell me how you got excited or really just into employer branding and culture curating into those spaces?
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting. The journey into employer branding started about close to like 3, almost 4 years ago. I was at a conference and saw Julie McClure, and phenomenal personal branding professional. And I was just like, I need to figure out, like what makes me tick, what sets me apart, and mostly too, what do people come to me for? Is that what I want to be known for? And so at that time, I was working in like the talent acquisition space, and it had me thinking like, I need to worry about my company. What is our brand and our reputation? Are we attracting the right people? So since then, I've been on the journey, and then on my website, I usually share tips and tricks with my network that revolve around employer branding. And recently, did a piece on cancel culture and how to safeguard your employer brand.
Well, which I love. So when we were talking about it, I was like, canceled culture. And, I kind of know what that is. I think a lot of us have seen it. But for the people watching who don't know, just in general, what is cancel culture?
So think of, it's the phenomenon of this tidal wave, you know, crashing, across all digital, spectrums. These days everyone has a phone. You use the power of the thumb. You're swiping and you're scrolling, and you come across a piece of content, and it's a celebrity or it's an organization, and they slipped. They said something they shouldn't have, or this celebrity is caught in a scandal, and it's the idea that pulls back to that age-old saying. It could take a lifetime to build a reputation, and it can all crash in seconds. So cancel culture is that bite of information where kind of can ruin a reputation. It can make or break a person for sure.
Yeah, and people kind of like let you go, right? So it's like your show is canceled. And the one thing that always comes to my mind is how, Kevin Spacey, and that kind of happening pretty quickly. And then as well, but I guess, why do you think organizations should really care about this and, it happening to them as an organization?
So it's a company's employer brand really is going to depend on you know that outside reputation. But it starts internally. And so, if you're going to control that narrative, you need to have some systems in place where you are, keeping an eye on the content that you're creating, that you're pushing, and how people are really relating to it. So for me, I like to think, when you're scrolling through, your phone, and maybe you're on, LinkedIn or even, Facebook. There are many people around the world doing the same thing. Different colors, genders, shades, ethnicities, backgrounds, the whole mix. So with having that type of power at your fingertips and just a scroll or a swipe right, you will be right in front of your future customer or consumer. And those are the perspectives you need to put on your content to make sure that not only are you thinking at a global and a larger scale of how people are going to interpret, your message, uh, but it's also going to determine whether or not you are put in that canceled culture, box. Is what, are we meeting the expectations, of our people, and keeping, diverse perspectives in mind? So it definitely can make or break a company.
Yeah, and I think, we always talk about how culture can encourage people to stay away from your company, or it can pull people into your company. And especially, in today's times, there was this meme that I saw with like Elle Woods from Legally Blonde, and it was like, how everyone should, the first question they should ask, in interviews after the COVID crisis is, how did you treat your employees? And so a lot of us have heard stories about organizations who didn't treat their employees so well, and we've heard about organizations that did a wonderful job in how they prioritize their employees. And so, kind of to your point, keeping them away from the canceled culture. So
Right.
if an organization wants to avoid, right, getting canceled, what would be your recommendation about things that they can do internally to help avoid that?
Yeah. So I think to build off, the fact that, you have a very diverse, um, you know, platform of customers and clients, future employees, that are looking at you. Um, whether it's on accident or, share a message shared with a friend, um, news travels very quickly these days. And so considering, what this outside lens looks like, I'm thinking employers need to focus on an empathy rating council. So what this is, it's a team of people with, diverse perspectives, you know, maybe internal within the organization that are, focusing on, business initiatives and working on, IT programs, and then also, people facing HR, sales, customers. Like, imagine a team of diverse backgrounds and experiences, um, and that's going to be a group that you're going to want to include and build maybe into your governance of that marketing campaign. And, how is this video interpreted, and really getting some buy-in uh, from these different perspectives could definitely help in the long run avoid, the possible riff you could get in that, avoid the tidal wave.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because everyone brings a different lens to work, right? And so if you do have a diverse population, people viewing it with their particular lens can hopefully get things from reaching the air. I mean, there's so many things. I think one of the more recent examples, I know Peloton had a rough go of it with their ad with the husband buying the bike for his wife,
Oh,
and talking about her journey. And I'm not going to state an opinion on that, but I'm assuming if they would have had maybe a few different people put eyes on it, maybe someone would have given them a little bit of feedback. But usually most places test that kind of stuff. So it is sort of interesting. And sometimes, you just don't know. But I love the idea of trying to secure yourself against, having your culture canceled, and maybe, an empathy panel internally, and encourage people to really look at it with a critical eye from the lens that they bring to their work, right? So I think that's great. We
yeah.
have about a minute left. So
Oh,
with the
that's
last
quick.
minute we have here, I know it goes by so fast, right? With the last minute that we have, why don't you tell our viewers where they can find and follow you?
Yeah, absolutely. So ingrativation.com is where you can find my blog, tips, tricks. Feel free to, share your thoughts, as well as Facebook and Instagram as well. So always available and looking to just share and develop new employer branding tips, and really, reach out to my network, and, just trying to keep some inspiration and gratitude and motivation out in the world.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a great guest. I appreciate having you on the show. And everyone, go ahead and follow Mark now. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.